have been above normal temperatures in
Wow.
West Palm. So
Wow.
it's since June 1st over about 2.5 degrees above normal. I think Fort Pierce is like closer to a degree above, but it's been persistent. Everybody knows it's hot and humid, like duh. It's but it's been extreme. It's been like it's just like nonstop. And since you're getting a little bit less in the way of thunderstorm activity, it's been causing, that's how you get the cooling this time of the year. You
Yeah.
get good storms, a wave comes through, it's cloudier, you get more showers, thunderstorms. You just haven't had that, and so the heat has just been like nonstop down here.
What is your Dave? What are you guys talking heat index wise on a daily basis down there so
Oh,
far?
I saw it today. So 110, 111,
Yeah.
112. Yeah, I
Oh.
mean it's crazy.
I,
I
I got
mean,
I got to tell you, I don't miss that one bit.
and to do something outside, you got to make sure you're doing it before 9 o'clock, or like now in the evening, early evening.
Yeah, I remember last you were you were there all of last summer too, right?
All of last year, yeah, we got there in January, early January of 25.
Yeah, and I remember it was like, and I'm not even exaggerating. For those that we're live now, and I'll introduce you here in a second, Dave. And
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not even exaggerating. It seemed like every day last year, from let's say June 15th through the end of September, that heat index was between 110 and 120 every day. I mean, it was nuts. I could not believe how awful it was.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
that
hopefully it's a
that's
little bit better for you.
that's the thing with living in Florida. It's versus up north. It could get, and it was that stretch around the 4th of July. It was actually hotter, 8, 10 degrees hotter up in Philly, and New York, and Baltimore, Washington, than it was down in Florida. But up there, it was what, 3, 4, 5 days, and then it was over, and then a front comes through. You don't have that in Florida. It's like you got to wait till basically October sometime to get any true relief. And September, I mean, it's September. I compare that to being up north in March.
Yeah,
So by March, people have like pretty much like they're burned out on winter. They've had it with the cold and the snow and the ice, and they just want to get the program, get the show on the road, and get spring to start.
yeah.
And it's
It's
the same way, like the opposite in September down here. It's like, okay, enough is enough.
you know it was
Enough heat and humidity, time to get the show on the road. Let's start fall. And by then, especially late September, up north, you're getting good fronts coming through. You're getting your first, freeze threats in the cold spots in Pennsylvania and stuff. And it's fall. But down here, you're still like in hardcore summer. And it's like, man, you just
and
had enough,
and you're in the peak of hurricane season, in September.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I remember last year, I was by September I was so just done with it. I just didn't want it anymore. And like you said, you're still too deep into the tropical season to really get those fronts through you just yet. But lo and behold, I'm going to say maybe the first week and a half of October we started getting them last year. And I
Yeah.
remember I was actually trick or treating with Paige down there last year on Halloween, and we were down to like 54 degrees. I could not believe how chilly it was. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is a treat. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I have to imagine, and you're going to know this, probably better than me with all your years of experience. I have to imagine you're not going to be so lucky this year given the El Nino, right?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it seems like what El Nino's been doing, it's you've had a little bit more jet, a little bit more further suppressed down into the U.S. Except for out in the Midwest, you've had that bubble either in the Rockies or the Great Basin, or sometimes it's in the upper Midwest or the central states. So the heat's been pretty intense out there, but it's like right on the edge of that, right on the edge of the heat is where all the action has been. Look at how many times Illinois has gotten raked over the coals, southern Wisconsin, Indiana with all the flooding, now down into parts of Kentucky and West Virginia. That's been the battle zone
Yeah.
between some much more pleasant weather up in upstate New York and New England. They've actually had a pretty comfortable summer, other than that one little stretch back in early July. And meanwhile, in and like near the ridge and into the ridge, it's just been persistent heat and humidity the entire time. And so and it oscillates somewhat, that frontal boundary, but there's been no fronts that have been able to penetrate, any farther south than maybe southern Georgia, maybe
Yeah.
the Georgia-Florida line,
So,
and nothing, zero, no wind shifts, no nothing, for weeks and weeks on end down here.
for those of you that are just tuning in here, I'm joined by recently retired senior meteorologist Dave Dombek of Accuweather. 44 years, right, my friend? Is that how long you were there?
45 plus.
Wow, 45.
45 plus. The year I started at Accuweather, Jimmy Carter was still the president for a few more months, several more months before Reagan won the election in 1980. So that
Wow.
goes to show you how many years I was with the company. And Chris, that was the only job, the one and only job, the position that I had in the field of meteorology after I graduated from Penn State in 1980. One and only job in the field.
Wait a minute, I didn't know that. So that was the only gig you had? Was
the only job right out of school. I got hired by Dr. Joel Myers.
That's another name I remember, but well, yeah. Wow, good for you. So
That was the only job I ever had in the field my entire career.
So to put this in perspective, just to kind of say it another way, you started at Accuweather when I was 5 years old.
At least you weren't still in diapers.
Well, that's true. That is true. But one of the special relationships that Dave and I have is Dave was our lead, because we have a part. Well, I don't work at Channel 6 anymore, but when I was at Channel 6 for 19 years, and WPVI and Accuweather have a special relationship. They've partnered with. I keep saying we. They've partnered with Accuweather for 40 years. Dave, is that how long it was, or 45?
Honestly, Chris, I want to say that WPVI became a client of ours in about 1972. Believe it or not.
Wow, I didn't know that. Well, I knew it had been a long time. And so, someone like Dave and I have talked a bazillion times, because we're constantly talking about the forecast and prepping for storms. And then, I moved down to the West Palm Beach area and become the lead forecaster there. And guess who shows up about 6 or 7 months later? This man right here, Mr. Dave Dombek. And you lived, gosh, it couldn't have been but maybe 7 or 8 minutes down the street from me.
That's about it. Yeah, you lived on one side of the bridge. I lived on the other side of the bridge.
It was just awesome. Did breakfast a couple times, and what was that little diner place that we went to that one day? The food was good there.
Three Little Birds Cafe, right on US 1 in Stuart, Florida. Great place.
I had a loaded French toast. I mean, they were just putting the butter on there and the syrup. It was good. It was really, really good.
Yep.
Okay, so I tell you what. Let's chat a little bit about. So this has been typically what happens, just so I can get my viewers up to speed. Hi, buddy. My dog's walking by. Just so we can catch everybody up to speed here. Typically what happens in Florida, especially South Florida, you get 2 seasons and 2 seasons only. The rainy season and the dry season. And during the rainy season, which is now, when is that? May 15th? Is that when that begins, Dave?
Yeah, May 15th, May 20th, depending on, I think on the West Coast, it's a little bit later to kick in, but yeah, basically the middle to the latter part of May.
And what does it end?
It is noticeable. It is, and then it goes usually through September, and then it starts to phase down. At some point in October, you're really phasing down by the second half of October.
So let's just use, for simple math, let's just say it begins May 15th and it ends October 15th. So that's your rainy season, and then October 15th to May 15th is your dry season. And in South Florida, when you get to the dry season, it is about as nice as you're ever going to see. It never rains. There's never a cloud in the sky. There's no humidity. Temperatures drop down to about maybe 70 to 83, 84, somewhere in that ballpark for a high every day. I mean, it's just perfect weather. But during the rainy season, every day, because it feels like 110 plus, you get a downpour and a gust of wind, and, it can get pretty stormy during the afternoon. How have you guys, it's a crazy El Nino season. We've been nuts with the weather up here. How have you guys been down there in South Florida?
Well, it's been persistently hot and humid, and that's pretty much, it kind of goes with the territory. Everybody knows, South Florida is going to be hot and humid in the summer. That's a no-brainer. But it's been more so. It's been more extreme than it normally is. We've had very little in the way of any kind of relief. No like weak fronts with a little wind shift and a subtle drop in dew points, whatever. We haven't gotten that. And a lot of times you get into those patterns where you might get a day or two here and there where there's a lot of clouds and it's frequent showers and thunderstorms, and it keeps the temperature suppressed. We've had very, very, very few of those over the summer. So many days, and it's a normal high in Stuart, Florida, which it's in Martin County, south of Port St. Lucie. It's about 30 miles or so north of West Palm Beach, in that area, East Coast. The normal high in July, August, this time of the year, would be about 90, 91. And then the normal low is like maybe 76 or so, 75, 76. So you have a smaller range because of the dew points.
That was what was killer down there. You didn't get much break at night, and that you had a really high launching pad. The next day, boom, temperatures take right off. So
that's right. The only thing that kind of, if you're near the coast, within about 8 or 10 miles, which even back where I live in Palm City, I'm like 8 miles straight line to the beach, like the Stewart Beach. Even that far inland, the sea breeze would make it back our way. But this time of year now, the sea breeze, the water temp, I just checked Stewart Beach the other day, 87-degree water temperature right now at Stewart.
That's not even refreshing.
The sea breeze is like, it's not a refreshing sea breeze. All it does is just like keep it from getting to like 100 or 98 or whatever. So.
You are, my friend, in the middle of a convection oven. That's what you are in right now down there. When that breeze gets going, because there's no, it's funny. Hello. My neighbors are out. It's funny because, here the ocean temperatures are still like 72, 73. That feels good. You get that breeze coming in and it feels good, the sea breeze. But I remember exactly what you're saying. When we were down there last summer, I think at one point the ocean, usually the Gulf is warmer, right, than the Atlantic side of the peninsula. But I do remember the ocean temperature at one point getting up to almost 90, if not reaching 90. And when your easterly wind kicked in, you're like, what is this? There's no break. It's awful. So
that's all it's going to do. Yeah, that's it. That's it. But yeah, so this summer, Chris, I was doing some digging with some numbers at West Palm Beach. Since June 1st, 2.5 degrees above normal. That's pretty significant for this time of the year. I think Fort Pierce up a little bit farther north of here, up in St. Lucie County, a little bit less. It was like they were closer to a degree above. But I think it was something like at West Palm Beach, something like 72 out of the last like 79 days, whatever, have been above normal. Now, we're not talking like 10 degrees above, but still you're 1, 2, 1.5, 2.5, 3 degrees. Like every day being a little bit, maybe the high, and the normal high is like 90 or 91, you're getting to 92 or 3 or 4.
And that just reassures what I was just talking about, how there's just no break down there right now.
Yeah, and it's just, and I remember last year, it's like I couldn't wait for the first time that I saw my min thermometer, that I was going to check it in the morning and it was going to start with a 6.
Oh, that ain't happening for a while. You got a while for that. Oh, and man.
I have record. I kept record of that. I think it was October 12th. We got our first front, and the low temperature at my place was like 68. And I was all excited because I saw it started with a 6 instead of a 7.
And I got to tell you, that's actually, because the first summer, that's actually not bad, Dave. To get it in the beginning of October, because some of my former coworkers down there in West Palm Beach told me you might go the entire month of October without a front. And so that's actually not that bad. For those of you just joining me, again, I am being joined by recently retired senior meteorologist of 45 years at Accuweather, Dave Dombek. And what we're going to do here, we're talking a little bit about the El Nino. What I wanted to, and guys, by the way, I see all of your comments on the chat right now. I'm going to, instead of replying to them with a message, I'm going to verbally reply to them, because yesterday, I don't know what the heck happened, Dave, but I started replying to him, typing, and the whole thing crapped out, and we lost the signal. And so my hands are right here. I'm not touching anything. I don't want this to crap out on me again. But I will answer, the questions that you guys have. I figured the plan of attack here, because Dave is like super duper forecaster. So he's really, really good, and he's got a lot of knowledge and experience. So I figure what we can do here is we'll talk a little bit about, because there's a lot of folks that want to know about the remaining tropical season, especially down there. Could we get something up the East Coast too? So we'll talk a little bit about that. we'll briefly get into this crazy weather pattern that we've been in here in the Philadelphia area, and then maybe we can just briefly chat. What do you think, Dave, of the upcoming winter season, what you're seeing right now? Because I know you've already looked ahead. Sound good?
Oh, yeah.
Sound like a plan?
Yep. Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
Yep.
So the tropics, if you remember, I want to say less than a week ago, was there 2 or was there 3 disturbances that we were monitoring? And then
three.
There was 3. And then all of a sudden, like 2 days later, I go to the National Hurricane Center page and I was like, wait a minute, is this a misprint? Everything vanished. It was gone. So what happened?
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, it's the extreme amount of wind shear, that's been produced, and it continues to be produced by the El Nino that's in place right now. And the El Nino is over time, it's going to get stronger as we head into the fall. So that El Nino creates a lot of wind shear, which is just like the death knell for tropical systems. It just rips them apart. What you want to see, you want to have very little or no shear, because then you're able to develop a circulation, and then you have the whole column.
Yeah, surface to the right.
Surface to up, and then they're able to spin up and really intensify. But when you have so much shear that you might have a system down at the surface, down over the ocean, over the warm oceans, and you're trying to spin something up at the surface, but then the mid and upper levels of that are just getting ripped apart. And so here's the upper level part is like hundreds of miles away. It just rips it. And that's what's been happening, and it continues to happen. So that's one thing. And then the other factor is we've had bouts of Saharan dust coming off of Africa.
And a lot of that, yeah.
That's pretty normal, especially early in the summer, June, July, very typical. You get a lot of that dust coming off of Africa. And you probably remember this, Chris, down here in South Florida, on those really, on the days when there's a lot of that Saharan dust aloft, it definitely looks hazy. Like that sky has that real hazy look to it. And we even had one here yesterday. Today, air's a lot cleaner, but yesterday you could see the dust, and that kills and that suppresses. You remember that?
It's a lot of dry air. Is it all elevated? Can you smell it at all, or like no?
It's all elevated. Yeah, but it definitely it suppresses thunderstorms. I remember one of the days last summer, Chris. There were a couple of cells that were trying to pop, and they did. And instead of them like continuing to grow and expand and move, they just they pulsed up and then they croaked.
Yeah.
That dry, dusty air, it killed them. And that same stuff, that same process is also a killer of tropical systems, of tropical storms and hurricanes out over the ocean.
So moving forward, one of the things that I've talked about extensively, on this platform is, the sheer, I've kind of described it as almost like a invisible protective force field, if you will, for the United States. As long as that's there, anything that approaches from the the MDR, it runs into it, the shear rips it apart, and you've got nothing. And that's kind of what we've seen up to this point. The one thing that I've been a little concerned about is those homegrown systems, those enclosed storms that maybe are already past the shear. They develop in the Gulf, and they're past that zone of shear. They're what we have to worry about. Do you potentially see something like that happening down the road here over the next month or two?
What I've been telling people over and over again, Chris, is that we have to be vigilant. You have to be on guard, because we are now because you remember seeing the hurricane curve of, the hurricane season. It's like hardly going at all, hardly moving at all in June. July, it comes up just a little bit, early August, but it's like a big spike up second half of August. The absolute top of the curve, September 10th.
Yeah.
That's the peak of the hurricane season in the Atlantic Basin, September 10th. And then it falls off the cliff pretty quickly after that. So your meat of the season is really not even 2 months long. It's from about August 15th to maybe about October 10th. That is really the true meat of the season. So I've been telling people, yes, we're in El Nino. We've been doing well so far. Stuff's been just getting killed. There's nothing in sight right now, but you still have to be vigilant, because like you said, Chris, you could get some of those little homegrown systems either in the Gulf or down near the Bay of Campeche. And maybe there's a little zone, it's not big, but there's a little zone where there's no shear or very, very light shear. all the conditions are there, and then boom, something spins up. Or you could have something coming off of Africa, which usually this time of year, you're getting a lot of systems coming off of Africa. That's pretty normal. You get August, September, those waves, it's like one after the other. And all you need is this skinny little zone. Like
Right.
you got
Just right.
sheer north, sheer south, and you got this skinny little zone, and it sneaks through that zone of little or no shear. And then all of a sudden, we got a Cat 4 or 5 hurricane.
So
So that
one
could still happen.
one thing that I looked at, Dave, which was interesting, was when you look at the sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic, they weren't boiling like they've been in years past. I mean, there's plenty of water out there that's above what's considered normal right now, but surprisingly, there was quite a bit of blue too. There was quite a bit of, especially in the MDR, where the temperatures are just a little bit below where they should
Right.
be in the water. Could that play anything? Could that play a
Yeah.
role?
No doubt. I think if you saw the temperatures like where they were like last summer, some of these past summers higher, despite the El Nino, I think there'd be a little bit more concern about something spinning up. But you're right. But the bottom line is that all you need is 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That's it.
And they
80
can
degrees.
strengthen. Yeah.
That's it. You get it to, yeah, it's great if you had it 85 or 88, whatever, 90. Sure, that's a heck of a lot of fuel for a tropical system. But to get something to go and to maintain it, all you need is 80. So there's plenty of ocean out there where it's 80 plus.
What about what about an East Coast hit? Is there any signs in maybe analogs or anything? Now, granted, we're moving into rare territory because it's been, what Rob and I have talked about at length was, he was on yesterday, Rob Garino. It's very rare that you have, one, a El Nino as strong as it is right now, but two, it's even rare to have it peaking during the summer like it is now. Usually it'll peak in the winter. So, do you see anything perhaps maybe in terms of using analog data, analog years, or in other words, years in the past that are similar, and, that kind of gives us an idea or a clue as to what the future may bring? Do you see anything like that would suggest maybe an East Coast hit over the next month or two?
Yeah, I mean, again, there could be that small window. You're certainly overall the pattern is not favorable. You're going to get too much westerly flow, too much jet, and with the El Nino, you're going to tend to probably get a little bit more suppressed jet, maybe a little bit faster as we get into September and October. But all you need is just that 5-day period, where there's a ridge that builds like off of out near Bermuda or so, or somewhere off the East Coast, and the flow is southwesterly aloft, and the shear gets weak or non-existent for a couple of days, and then you've got an open window for something to come up. So, but certainly my experience in El Nino years is that, number one, you're going to get fewer storms overall, named storms. The number is going to be down. I think that's a given. Everybody is on the same page. They may have different predictions, but everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
It's going to be a reduced number of storms, but it only takes one. That's all it takes. Look at Andrew.
Look at Sandy. Sandy that was really the only storm that year, Sandy, and devastating. Andrew was another great example. Yeah.
Andrew. Think about this, Chris. Andrew took until like the second half of August to get your A storm.
Oh my gosh, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Wow.
And I think in '92 there were only like 7 or 8 named storms. That was it. It was a low number storm. But if you told somebody in Homestead, Florida, south of Miami, you told, oh yeah, that was a wimpy year. It's like, what? Our whole town was like totally, it looked like a bomb hit it.
Yeah.
Andrew was a beast of a storm. So it just takes one. You got to be vigilant. But again, the numbers are typically down in the Atlantic Basin total. And number two, what you almost will always see, and there's exceptions, but like probably 85, 90% chance that in El Nino setups, the season cuts off quicker. You don't keep going on till Thanksgiving, till December. It doesn't keep going on and on, like never ending. Sometimes it's like by the 3rd week of October, it's done. Put a fork in it, it's done, and then put it to bed for the night, and that's the end of hurricane season. So El Nino years, the shorter, less numbers, and it ends quicker, usually in late October.
I'm sorry, real quick. I don't mean to be. My dog escaped the fence again, and he ran over into my neighbor's yard again. Um,
Why don't you just sit down with you there, Chris?
I wish you could see this here. I put a gate up too. He's getting smart. So what he does now is he takes because I have it kind of pushed against the fence, and what he's doing now is he's taking his nose and he's going like that and pushing the gate out and sliding through. I'm like, that little bugger is smart. He's laying right there on your driveway. Okay, he's just laying there. Murphy, come here. He loves, so this is, and I think my viewers know this too. He loves my neighbor's yard that way, and he loves my neighbor's yard that way, and he never stays in his own yard. It's just hysterical. He loves the rhododendrons, Dave. He lays underneath the rhododendrons on this side, and then he loves their driveway. My neighbor's over here. I don't get it. He just doesn't like our yard. I don't suppose you can pick him up and bring him over here, can you? Could you? Thank you. I appreciate it. Murphy, let her pick you up. All right. So real quick, by the way, I'm being joined by senior meteorologist, recently retired Accuweather senior meteorologist Dave Dombek, 45 years at Accuweather, just a tremendous amount of knowledge here in the world of weather. So what you're going to get tonight is a little bit more, at times, technical than maybe what you're used to. So what we're going to try and do, for the most part, is if we use a term, and hit me up in the comments section here, if we use a term that you're not familiar with, let us know, and I'll try my best to explain it, and then we'll keep going. But it's really great to have a conversation like this with you, Dave, because I'm going to don't think you're getting away scot-free. I'm going to ask you the 20 questions here because the viewers want to know what you've been doing, what your favorite storm was that you forecast. So I'm going to get you. All right, but we're going to talk a little bit right now about, hi, Mateo. We're going to talk a little bit about, how about we switch gears real quick, Dave, and we talk a little bit about the upcoming winter season. Okay. We just had two monster, and of course I was in Florida, so I missed the whole thing, but we just had two monster winter seasons here in the Philadelphia area. And of course, now I move home, I want the cold and the snow, and I'm faced with the reality that it might not happen this year, at least the way I want it, because of the El Nino. So tell me what you got. All right, experience, years in past dealing with strong El Ninos like this. What are you thinking? What's your gut telling you? Go.
So we know that in El Nino setups, Chris, you've got an active southern jet stream. That is, and you're going to have a lot of storms coming from like Southern California, the Southwest, through Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Gulf Coast area, and then they do tend to, not all of them, but some of them will tend to turn up the East Coast. The problem for snow lovers is that for a lot of those storms, there's no cold air. You've got a lot of Pacific air that floods across the country, a lack of cold enough air to get it to snow. So you'll have a lot of rain events or a little bit of snow and then change over to rain events. That's just because of a lack of cold air. Not a lack of moisture. You got plenty of moisture available with the southern branch and tapping into the Gulf and at times the Atlantic. But you just miss one after another. Now the interior of the Northeast could be different. Like I remember the 97, 98. That was a strong El Nino.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, you know how much Philadelphia had the entire winter season?
Hold on. Let me think about this for a second because we were just talking about this and I can't. So I remember because 96 was the big snowstorm year. That was the big blizzard. And then I remember the next year was just such a dud. Was it just 1 inch? Is that all Philly?
It was like a half an inch, basically. Yeah. It was like less than an inch of snow the entire winter. But at that same time, that same winter, State College had near normal snowfall. They actually had 40, 42, 43 inches or so because it was just barely cold enough to snow. But the perception, even in central PA, was that over the interior was that, oh yeah, it hardly snowed at all. You know why? because it snowed and then it like a couple days later it melted
Yeah.
because there was such a lack of it didn't stick around long. But we had normal snowfall, so you could get that. We're east of the mountains, east of I-95 over to the coast. You get a lot of rain events or slop events going to rain, and you end up with very very little in the way of snow.
Well, one of the
But
okay, go ahead.
but
Sorry.
let me give you two caveats to that, two exceptions. One was 82, 83, the 1982, 83. That was a strong El Nino winter. We had one big event, like one and done, the one like hurrah of the whole winter, one storm, and you got hammered. It was the blizzard of 83,
Yeah.
February 11th, I believe, 1983. You got like 20, I forget what it was, basically close to 2 feet of snow, 22, 24 inches, whatever, in Philly. That was it. There was like the one event of the entire winter, and the rest of it was a dud. Same thing happened in 2015, 2016. Again, very strong El Nino that winter. Most of the winter was a dud, very little snow, one big event in I think it was a January or February.
That was the one that produced 30 inches in Allentown, right? That storm.
Yeah, it was a biggie, but it was one. It was like the one big hurrah, and that was it. So sometimes in those El Nino winters, yes, most of the winter is like it's just a total dud, and you're very depressed, and it's not snowing, and you get a lot of rain events. But if you get just the right amount of snow or right amount of cold air, especially a little piece of Arctic air that could break away for a couple of days, that's all you need. You get the dew points down, and the storm track is just right.
You
can get
hammered. You got to thread the needle, basically, right? And so,
yeah, and that can happen. So that's always that possibility that in those El Nino winters, while most of the winter very frustrating for snow lovers, and it's a real dud, watch out for that one biggie somewhere.
So one of the things, Dave, that I'm a little concerned about is because, and I actually did a graphic on this. It was either yesterday or the day before. The CFSV2. Now we all know you got to take that with a grain of salt because, especially this far in advance. But one thing that it's showing, that is, by the way, the CFSV2 is sort of like a seasonal climate model.
Right.
And so what I was looking at was precip anomalies and temperature anomalies. And the precip anomaly was tremendous up the East Coast. It was way above normal, what it's showing for January and February. But when you look in terms of the temperature anomaly, it's all above. It's all above normal. And so what concerns me there is you might have an incredible storm track in any given normal winter where you're like snow here, snow there, But with no cold air, the ocean can't cool down. And if the ocean can't cool down, when you get these big coastal storms, you're pushing that marine layer in, and there's just no cold air. It's all rain. And like you had said before we went on, severe weather might be a big ticket item this winter.
Yes, if you're in the southeast, in Florida in particular, and I was doing a little research on that just about a week or two ago, Chris, and I was looking at Florida, central and southern Florida in particular, in El Nino winters, and I went back, I think 5 or 6 El Nino winters I looked at. I looked at the total precip during the winter season. Like you said, the dry season, and it usually as you go long stretches, it never rains a drop. But in El Nino winters, it's wetter, and sometimes way wetter, like way above normal. I think in 2016, the local fishing club, the Stewart Rod and Reel Club that I belong to, and one of the guys, he's pretty much like a native. He grew up in Stewart, Florida area, so he's been here like all his life. And he really follows the weather patterns. He follows the levels, the lake levels and the water levels and all that stuff. But he said in 2016, in January, there were parts of Palm Beach County, Florida. Again, this is the dry season, like the heart of the dry season. There were portions of Palm Beach County, Florida, in January 2016, a strong El Nino winter that got 30 inches of rain.
That's nuts. Wow, that's crazy.
Rain. And it was because of that, Lake Okeechobee went nuts, and all the drainage they had to
open the gates,
water, and then that just ruined some of the fishing in the St. Lucie estuary, the St. Lucie River, and the Indian River Lagoon. It was just a disaster for the fishing for several years after that. But that was a strong El Nino.
Can you imagine too how upset the snowbirds must have been? They're coming down to escape that mess.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like raining all the time,
Right.
and that's bad enough. And if you're in a drought situation, say, okay, a little bit of that is actually a good thing. But also in those El Nino winters, think about this: you got a suppressed jet, you got a stronger, lot more wind aloft, you got a farther south storm track. You got more frequent fronts to come through. Yeah, there's not Arctic air, but they're fronts. They're true cold fronts, and severe weather could be a major issue. So there's always been in a strong El Nino winters, Florida, portions of Florida get hit hard with severe weather, sometimes tornadoes. So
Well,
it could be, while it's doing its thing and it's keeping us protected from the tropical season, from tropical storms and hurricanes now, it's like just the opposite. It's kind of it's a bad thing in the winter because you
right.
can get flooding and you could also get severe weather here
So
in
you
the
guys
winter.
might have your hands full down there come, December, January, February. Um, so one of the things I was looking at, what is it, the IRI? Yeah, the IRI measures the El Nino intensity. And one of the things that I noticed was it is showing a potential, I guess, strength of this El Nino, if you will, that has never been seen before in recorded history. I mean, it's just going off the chart almost. Is there any possible way that something like that could maybe just alter what the normal idea is for a strong El Nino, and we get a good winter here in the Philadelphia area?
Mm. Yeah, I mean that's. I always say, Chris, records are meant to be broken. I mean, all records eventually are going to be broken, tied or broken at some point. So, yeah, that's at something. I guess I'm not really quite yet ready to latch on to this is going to be like the worst element. It could be. It could very well. One thing I do know, and this is like going forward, I've always seen these either El Nino or La Nina or neutral. The ENSO predictions in the spring are typically horrible. So
Really?
if you're with something in like March or April, don't pay attention to it because typically they're just not right. But once you get into June, July, August, then they're way more. You get better data, and it really starts to pick up on what the ocean and the whole atmospheric situation is wanting to do by the time you get to this time of the year.
Well, what it's showing right now, I mean, that's good to know because we are in August now, and what it is showing is, yes, the El Nino does weaken during the second half of winter, but it's still it's coming on. It's not like it was a moderate El Nino and weakening. It's such a super duper strong El Nino that even as it's weakening, it's still an incredibly strong El Nino, even in the months where it's coming down.
Right.
So,
And that's something to keep in mind. If depending on how quickly the weakening is taking place, going toward neutral, eventually it may take till next June, to get to neutral. We don't know how quickly it's going to come, go back toward the neutral state. But as that's weakening, and of course, when do the oceans reach their coldest point? Usually, like in February.
yep, that's when they are.
Sometimes even
Yeah.
one. So if there's going to be you get that sweet spot with just enough cold air at the right time and a good storm track, and you get that one biggie of a storm, one whopper of a storm. If I had to make a call, I'd say probably February is your best chance for that to happen.
I hope so. All right, I'm
But
gonna now, Dave, because it's 8:03, and so we're gonna try. Dave and I are gonna try to avoid being on here for 2 hours, like like I was yesterday. So I can't let you get away scot free. Here come the 20 questions. Ready?
all right,
Do the Phillies make the playoffs this year?
I'd say no.
Oh, that's what I said yesterday. I was hoping you were gonna say yes. Okay. Um, what is your? Because you have forecasted some doozies. I'll tell you. What is your most? I'll ask you two separate questions. One, what is your most memorable event forecasting? And two, what was your funnest event forecasting?
Wow. Probably the most, and there's so many storms. There's so many storms, but honestly, I have to say, certainly in recent memory, I would have to say that Sandy in 2012. Honestly, Chris, in about 72-hour period, the lead up to the storm and the actual storm happening itself, I might have slept 7 or 8 hours in
I
like
know.
72 hours. I mean, I was just operating on adrenaline, but I know that all the hard work that we did during that storm, definitely it helped people, it saved lives, it helped people protect their property and everything, and
We
make right decisions, and that was just so intensive, to see a storm basically make like a total left turn like that and go straight in to the Jersey Shore from
Well,
the east
speaking of
like
that,
that.
Dave. Speaking of that, Dave, because remember it was the European model. That was the only one showing it at one point. When we were at that point in the forecasting, where it was the only model, all the models were going out to sea. All of a sudden, the Euro's saying nope and makes a left. When you first saw that, what were your initial thoughts?
It's like, wow, is this real? It's like I had to do a double take, but then it was so consistent. You
Right,
know, it
right.
it showing it, and it's like one thing. It wasn't like one run showed it, and then the next run it was like out, 100 miles offshore, whatever. It kept showing that. It's like, and looking at the pattern. That's the thing. Just even if you forget about the actual storm track, which was just wild, but looking at where the upper level ridge wanted to set up, like over Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, over basically over the Canadian Maritimes, and it's like, well, where is that storm? Where does it has to go? It can't go up into there because the high is up there. The flow is going clockwise around the upper level high up there.
Right. So
It has
basically, it acted like a block, and we slammed the northern door shut, and so there was nowhere for this thing to go but towards the coast. With that
right.
setup.
Just looking at the upper air, you knew that it had to go. It had to go to the left somehow.
I remember, Dave. I remember when I first, and I even said this on the air. I was doing the noon show that day. It was the first day where the Euro started to make the left turn, and I showed it. I showed because we have the spaghetti plots, and every line went like this, and the one line went to the left, which was a Euro. And I was showing this graphic on the air, and I forget exactly how I worded it, but it was something to the effect of, oh, this is great, right? Because the odds are heavily in favor of this thing going out to sea. And then I said, but that line is the European model. And I could hear like a groan in the studio because everyone knew the European model was regarded as, the most accurate model out there at the time. And everybody was kind of like, ugh. It almost like I took the wind out of their sails.
right.
And then all of a sudden, maybe the next day, now it wasn't just one model showing it, now it was two. And then,
Yeah.
maybe the next day, now it was three. And everyone eventually got on board, and all you saw was consistency, like you said, with the Euro. Every day it showed the same thing. It never budged. It showed the same thing from the very
Yep.
first day to the last day, which was remarkable.
Oh yeah, yeah. But yeah, and the way everything, basically the whole atmosphere, instead of north being north and west being west and like the whole everything was like tilted by 90 degrees, and so your cold side of the storm, instead of being like north and west, was like to the south. It snowed in the in the Smoky Mountains and
In
uh,
October.
in October, right? Down in the central and southern Appalachians, they had snow
And
and
it was
and
a
cold.
lot. It was a lot of snow,
Yeah.
too. Um,
Meanwhile, it was warm. It was like unusually warm up in Maine and
yeah.
up that way. So everything was like tilted on its side.
All right, now what about, because I want to ask about the blizzard of 96 because I was not in college yet. And
Hmm.
I remember, you know how much I love snow in the cold, which is why I moved to Florida. Um, so, but, that storm, I was not technically forecasting anything like that. And I just remember watching Dave Roberts on the air, and he would post the Tonight page, and in one word it said blizzard. And then he would post the Tomorrow page, and in one word it said blizzard. And then he would show the
Yeah,
5 day, because remember there wasn't a 7 day back then.
right.
And he would post the 5 day, and it was blizzard, and then it was snow, and then it was snow shower. It was like the never-ending storm, and I was so excited. I know you had a large part, a large hand in the forecasting. What are your memories of that one?
Oh yeah, and very again, the consistency, and hats off to the Euro back then too. It was the most consistent. It didn't waffle. It didn't windshield wiper back and forth on its track or whatever. It was so consistent, and the setup, the pattern just made perfect sense with the ridge position, with the trough position in the east and everything. and the high, we had a perfect, I mean, injection of Arctic air just in the right place at the right time.
Was that
And
a
boy,
was that a CAD? Was that a cold air damming event?
that was just your a fresh injection of Arctic air right before the storm, like a day or two before, and then a perfect storm track, right? Just off the coast like that, and it was just a perfect setup. The upper trough was in the right place. It was just it was just a whole conveyor belt, with the overrunning going on and everything, and it was just a perfect setup. And 31 inches in
Well,
Philadelphia out of that
and
storm.
imagine, Dave, because how many hours? I mean, I don't remember how long of a storm it was. It was a lot. I mean, it just kept snowing. So I remember it was a long duration event. But think about how many hours of that storm the airport actually reported sleet. Imagine what the snow total would have been if we never changed to sleet.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, that's exactly right. And also with that '96 blizzard, there was a very sharp northwest cutoff to the snow. It went from big time snow over 2 feet. State College, we were Central PA. It was a big storm. We had 17, 18 inches. That was a sizable, substantial storm. But 50 miles northwest of here of State College, they had an inch.
That's all you
Uh,
guys got out there?
Yeah, in State College, you got 17 or 18 inches of fluffy, very powdery snow. But somewhere between Du Bois and Bradford, it cut off dramatically to about an inch of snow. Same thing up in like
Wow.
Elmira. So it was a
Wow.
very sharp cutoff. But I remember working. It was like a Sunday. I believe it was a Sunday into a Monday, that storm. And I made it into work that Sunday, and the storm was ramping up, and pretty much like all the roads in like the southeastern half of Pennsylvania were closed. They were just like, all traffic was at a standstill. And so AccuWeather at that time, we were downtown. We weren't in our newer building. We were downtown, closer to downtown. And so they had a hotel that was right on like Atherton Street and Beaver Ave, a pretty, within walking distance. So I got a hotel room. AccuWeather put us up in a hotel room and I remember, Chris, I worked like probably like a 12-hour shift that day. I was there like forever. I got out and finally I trudged back to the hotel. It was around midnight that night, that Sunday night. I get into my room and I could see my breath, and I go over to the window, and the window was open a crack, like not more than a crack. It was open like snow was blowing in my hotel room.
So somebody left the window open.
I
Um,
left the window open. I cranked the heat up, and it's like it took until like 4 in the morning to get warm in that room.
all right, I've got a. This is not weather related, but I got a question for you because I'm really curious about this. All right, so you're in AccuWeather, your state college. All right, so you got
Right.
Pittsburgh to your west, Philadelphia to your east, Buffalo to the north, Baltimore and DC to the south. Who the heck do you root for a football team?
Penn State.
Well, right, the college is easy, right? But what about the pros? Who do you
Yeah.
what do you do in the pros?
I mean, honestly, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. It really is like it's a dividing line. Definitely, like Center County is very much a dividing line. You go like from just east of Center County, you get into Lewistown, you get into the Susquehanna Valley, you go towards Harrisburg, and that it's definitely leans more Philly, definitely. You go just west, like pretty much from Center County and just west, then it's Pittsburgh. It's all
Center
Pittsburgh.
County's the
So,
one that State College is in.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's really even Center County is there's a division even within Center County itself. Now you go far enough south, you go down like into York County, then you start getting into more Baltimore, Washington territory down there, and you're right, you get far enough northwest. I made a trip. My wife and I went up to Kinzua Dam up by Bradford, up in the northwest part of the state, and then we crossed over into New York State itself, up toward Jamestown and that
Yeah.
Olean. And but that northwest part of Pennsylvania already, you see a lot of Buffalo Bills, flags and that up that way. So
You know,
it is a divider here, and even here's another divider right here right in central Pennsylvania:
yeah.
pop versus soda.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. So what do
From
you
pretty,
call it?
from the Allegheny front westward and northwest, it's pop.
No kidding.
Once you get to the Ridge and Valley, to the first valley, and then you get to the Nittany Valley, and then south and east, it's soda. So the pop and soda line is right through central PA as well.
I got to be honest, I don't think I've ever called soda pop.
No,
I've always called it soda.
right. I grew up in Northeastern. I grew up by Scranton, Wilkes-Barre myself, so it's always been soda to me.
All right, what about spaghetti sauce? Is it gravy or sauce?
Sauce.
Good man.
Yep.
Good man. It's funny when, Lori and I, we like to vacation up in Lake Placid, the Adirondacks, upstate New York, and a bug just landed on my computer. Get. So, a lot of Buffalo Sabres fans up there. You see people all over the place wearing Buffalo Sabres jerseys. I had never seen people wearing Buffalo Sabres jerseys before, and I forgot how close they are to Buffalo, and I'm like, oh
Right.
yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? Because we're all the way up, not even an hour from the Canadian border. But I thought that was pretty neat, and a lot of Buffalo Bills fans up there too, a ton.
Oh, yeah.
Ton.
Yeah.
They roll
Yeah.
deep up there.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, Dave, it's been great. I gotta go find my dog. So he's around here somewhere. But
Yeah.
listen, thanks so much for joining me today and talking weather here with all the viewers. And I'm gonna call on you this winter season. We got a snowstorm, Dave. I want you right there, buddy. I want you right there doing some weather with me. That sound like a deal?
You could ask me any day of the year. I love talking about weather. Ask anybody. And in fact, when we go to a party or something, go to an event, and my wife starts seeing me talking about weather, her eyes start rolling. It's like, that means we're going to be here an extra hour.
So, do you remember when we went to breakfast at the boathouse? And
Yep.
it was you and your wife and me and Lori and Paige. And after we got done, Lori said to me, she later said to me, we should have just left you two there. You guys were like kids in a candy store talking weather. Because we did. We talked about weather the whole time.
Right, it's in your blood, Chris. I mean,
Right.
I tell people I'm a proud weather weenie from the time I was just a kid. That's me, and that's in my blood. That's never going to go away. The passion's always there.
Well, you take care of yourself, and I will stay in touch. In the meantime, try your best to stay cool. I know it's brutal.
I will try my best. Well, hey, I think I told you tomorrow, my wife and I and my daughter and son-in-law and grandson, we're going out to Washington State to see my other daughter and my son-in-law out near Seattle. So it's going to be like natural air conditioning out there. It's going to be great.
Are you going to get to sightsee, like go around the city and everything, or?
Somewhat, but like 3 of the days we're actually going to be even north of there, like up the northern part of the Puget Sound, one of the islands. Well, it's called Orcas Island. Close to the water there. The water's like in the upper 50s, so it's going to be refreshingly cool. It'll be like probably 72 by day and 58 at night. It's going to be great.
The one thing there's 2 things that I wanted to see. Is it Mount Rainier that's out there? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We actually hiked part of that, not like to the peak or whatever, but 3 years ago we hiked that. That's a great experience.
And it's the Space Needle, right? Is that that's
right in Seattle. That's another neat. There's so many things. That whole area, Chris, if you ever get a chance, I mean, you've got water, you've got mountains, there's so many things like within like 40 miles of Seattle. So many things to see there.
Yeah. That's going to be a tremendous trip, man. You guys have a blast. I'm actually really, really jealous because I would love to. I've always wanted to see the Pac Northwest. I want to see Montana, Big Sky Country. Wanted to see Seattle. That's another one. There was like a Monday Night Football game. Seattle was taking on, I think, the Cowboys or whatever. It was a big night of football. And it wasn't Tony Romo or anybody doing it was, I forget who it was, but what they did was they did this package and they sent him all through Fishtown and everything like that. And they were showing just the crazy events that they have in Seattle. Like they take this big fish or whatever and they toss the fish. I mean, I didn't know what that meant. I still don't know what it meant, but what it means, but it was funny.
Fish market. I saw that in person a couple of different times.
Did you really?
Yeah, that was fun. It is fun.
Okay, so I'm going to sign off. I'm going to sign you off, but the problem is I don't know how to properly do this. So I don't know if your mic's still going to run for a minute until I can sign off or whatever. So listen, great seeing you, Dave. I'll stay in touch. Again, be careful out there with the heat. I know it's brutal. And I'll get back to you in a week or two.
That sounds good, Chris. Yeah, let me know about some of those other questions, which you got probably about 100 of them in there by now.
Oh yeah, I didn't want to be on till 9 o'clock again like last night, but I've got in my mind I've got so many questions that I want to ask right now. So we'll you know what we'll do? We'll do a part 2 in a couple weeks. How's that?
Sounds good, Chris.
All right, take care,
All
Dave.
right.
All right, bye.
Take it easy, man. Bye.